Well, the trailers to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania didn't thrill me, but trailers can be deceptive. I figured I'd give it a go anyway. So here's my review of this third film in the Ant-Man series. Sadly, the trailer effectively spoils much of the film anyway, but here goes. Major spoilers ahead. If you've seen the trailers, you know that the entire cast, Scott, his daughter Cassie, Hank Pym, Janet, and Hope Van Dyne, are all sucked down into the quantum realm by a plot device created by Cassie, and that's where the film takes place entirely. And once again, the "we need more young women in STEM" agenda continues, just like with that young lady, Riri Williams in Wakanda Forever, who built what is effectively an Iron Man suit in her college dorm room. Here we have super smart teenage genius Cassie, Scott Lang's daughter, building what is essentially a subatomic Hubble telescope in a basement. Of course, Cassie is the typical know-it-all snarky teenager we see in many of these kinds of films, and over dinner she virtue signals in front of her father about how she's trying to help people and do something that matters, despite her father having risked his life saving the world in Endgame. She gives him grief for the fact that, at present, Scott is doing book tours and attending public events, enjoying some of his newfound celebrity. And who could possibly blame him? Does he not deserve some plaudits for his heroism over the years? What I can't abide is the fact that, instead of being proud of her father and celebrating his accomplishments, which are the only reason any of the characters sitting around the table are even alive, she doesn't care in the slightest, and adopts an attitude of, "Yeah, but what have you done lately? What heroism are you doing right this second?" I mean, for feck's sake, does she want her father, who she lost for 5 years, to go out and risk his life again? How many more death-defying feats of heroism does this ungrateful brat want from her father? There's absolutely zero respect for Scott here or his accomplishments, and moreover, it's hard to respect a protagonist that allows himself to be continuously put down by other people. His family, his girlfriend, and his snotty, self-righteous, highly disrespectful daughter. Too often in Hollywood, we see examples of the youth showing up the older generation, as if children have more to teach to their parents than the other way around. It's just so tiresome. As I said before, I feel this film loses what makes the Ant-Man films fun, which is seeing Scott interact with everyday real-world objects and locations, but at a smaller or much larger scale. I'm not interested in seeing him run around in what is essentially an alien world filled with strange alien creatures in a largely animated film. And that's important because most of what you're seeing in this film is CGI, an almost completely CG environment, which just made the film feel like a cartoon to me. Janet's character knows the quantum realm, having been down there before, but she conveniently never told anyone that there's basically an entire world, a civilization down there, populated with intelligent life, a secret universe beneath ours. Wow, Janet, you couldn't have told Hank this years ago? Kind of a big deal to keep to yourself. And of course, she's large and in charge in this movie, completely overshadowing Hank most of the time. I feel sorry for Michael Douglas. He really has a backseat role in this movie. He may as well not even be there. Michelle Pfeiffer plays her role very well. She's a great actress, of course, but Janet is very much a Mary Sue character in this film. Super genius, knows everything, unfazed by almost any crazy random situation thrown her way. She kicks ass and physically overpowers large aliens much bigger than her. She can even hotwire an alien engine. There's nothing she can't do. It's just too much. But it is very much in keeping with the previous Phase 4 MCU themes. The humor in the film is also typical Marvel cheap gags and contemporary humor. There's a scene early on where Scott and Cassie are captured, and they have to drink this ooze in order to be able to understand the creatures there, and the gags are similar to those in Thor Ragnarok or Thor Love and Thunder, She-Hulk, Guardians of the Galaxy. The various territories of the quantum realm are under attack from the Conqueror's soldiers. Cassie also has her own Ant-Man type suit, so essentially Scott can be upstaged once again, this time by his daughter. While we spent the entire first film watching Scott adapt to the suit and become the superhero Ant-Man, in this film, Cassie is pretty adept at using the suit already, with only a few minor pointers required from her father now and then. The film introduces the character of Modoc, a giant head with tiny legs and arms, with really unconvincing CGI. I mean, it is bad. Now, this is actually the character of Darren Cross, played by Corey Stoll. He was, of course, the primary villain from the first film. He was banished down into the quantum realm in that movie. Now, in my view, Modoc's face only barely resembles Corey Stoll's face. I gotta say, this looks like really bad video game CGI. This is the stuff of nightmares. So Kang's whole deal is he wants to destroy other universes in the multiverse for some reason that are a threat to him. All the talk of fixing time is quite vague at this point. Now, the next thing was extremely difficult to accept as a plot point. Hank claims that some of the ants came back down to the quantum realm with them in some kind of time dilation, and they lived 1,000 years in a single day, expanding their knowledge and their science. He says they built a technocratic Class 2 civilization. And then he says, I know socialism is a charged word, but we could learn a lot before Hope cuts him off, thank God. Yeah, socialism, the pathway to communism. And has history not taught us enough on that subject? This entire concept of the conveniently evolved super ant civilization just stretches the limits of one's suspension of disbelief. Anyway, at this point of the film, Cassie is already fully adept at using her suit, trouncing bad guys and rescuing people. It all felt a bit like Hawkeye, actually, the daughter serving as a kind of stand-in or replacement for her father. She even gives a rousing holographic speech to the population of the quantum realm, encouraging them to stand up and fight back against Kang. There's one thing that especially makes no sense in this film. At one point, Scott and Cassie make themselves gigantic, relative to everything else in the quantum realm. Now, usually when this happens in our world, it causes a metabolic effect on the person such that they get extremely hungry. I know it's a bit silly, but there's absolutely no reason why Scott and Cassie should then report feeling this way in the quantum realm, because this world is subatomic. Therefore, when they made themselves big in the quantum realm, it's only big by quantum realm standards, not by real world standards. This was a bit of a logical oversight in the script, I suspect. So, there's a big showdown at the end, a big epic battle, and of course, Scott and Kang fight. Scott takes a brutal beating from him for basically no reason because Hope comes back through a portal and saves him. Ultimately, it's Cassie who brings them both back into the real world. I've never seen the primary hero of a superhero movie get upstaged so many times by other characters. The film ends on a really silly comedic note, with Scott questioning if stopping Kang was the right thing to do. He worries about that for a second, and then decides it's probably fine, and to stop overthinking it because it doesn't matter, and how nothing makes sense anyway. Talk about an ending that undermines the entire film. The issue with MCU films like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is that you can't take them seriously anymore because they don't take themselves seriously. There's never any genuine sense of peril or high stakes. You're never on the edge of your seat, excited or worried about the outcome. You're just sitting there passively, moderately or barely entertained by the action-packed CGI fest taking place on screen. You're never more than a few seconds or minutes away from a cheap joke or some silly comedic moment or some intrusive, mindless, witty banter that completely destroys any sense of drama, tension or suspense. As per the norm in the MCU since Phase 4, these films just devolve into borderline farce after a while. I actually liked the first Ant-Man film, and the second one wasn't bad, but it was watchable and mildly entertaining. But this film was just utterly pointless and lacked any heart or meaning. Kang, despite being the MCU's next Thanos-style villain, ultimately fails to impress and just comes across as an arbitrary, angry villain doing bad stuff because the script required it. His motivations aren't explained enough, and so I got no sense of depth from him. I actually can't believe they decided to end the film on a note of complete uncertainty regarding the villain and their actions in the quantum realm.
Scott is at a family gathering in a restaurant, trying to convince himself that everything is fine, and he doesn't have to worry about Kang again. And then it's supposed to be funny that he doesn't like Cassie's birthday cake and spits it out before the credits roll. Really? What kind of an ending is that? I'm trying not to be unkind here. I really hoped that this film might surprise me and actually be good. But I'm afraid it's very difficult to say anything truly positive about it. It was junk. I just haven't decided yet if this film was worse than Black Panther Wakanda Forever and Captain Marvel. But a case could certainly be made. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.